Hello, this is a prepaid collect call from
Tom Chantry.
an inmate at Yavapai County Sheriff's Office. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. To accept charges, press 1. To refuse charges, press 2. Thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
Hello?
Hi, Tom.
Hey, Dave. Glad I reached you before your trip. I wasn't sure when you guys were leaving.
We're leaving next Monday.
Okay.
You,
Yeah, I saw in your letter that you were going. I couldn't remember the date, so, yeah.
yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. I mean, I got a call on Sunday night from John Miller and Mike Van Grau, another elder, where Van Grau was obviously on the phone to be a witness to the phone call, and so they told me that they've looked into my complaint and they really see no reason to rebuke Brad. So I kept it short and said, well, that's what I expected you to say, and that's what I was told you would say. And that was that. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that, potential for family disunion,
Right,
and family trouble going on right now. But that's nothing to concern you about.
saying there's potential for family trouble, or there is?
Well, potential for it,
Right. I understand that, and I think that ought to be a priority for you. I mean, I think what's been said is needed to be said, and I'm greatly appreciative of what you've done. I really am, and certainly not looking for anything more. So
yeah. Well, I appreciate that, and I can't tell you how heartbroken I am about your situation, and I got to tell you, I was one book really helped me of late, and it's probably pretty unusual, but I'd like to tell you about it.
okay.
At the GA, Stephen and I elected not to go to one of the evening meetings, just needing some time away.
Right.
And so we went back to his room, and on Netflix we watched a fantastic movie with Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson called The Highwayman.
I watched that during the brief time I was out. I actually woke up early one morning and watched that. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, well, anyway, I got so interested in Frank Hamer that there's a new biography of him out. So I bought the biography on Kindle, regretting that I bought it on Kindle because now I want a hard copy of it, and read it. And there's two books that I've read recently about Texas history that are absolutely phenomenal. One is called The Empire of the Summer Moon, and it's about Quanah Parker and the Comanches and the Texas Rangers seeking to, quell Comanche attacks. But then this one by Hamer, I finished last week, and it gave me a picture of Texas in, the late 19th, early 20th century. It takes you up to about 1934. And things were so utterly corrupt in Texas at that time.
Yeah.
With prosecutors, being members of the KKK, judges being members of the KKK, lynching going on everywhere, burning blacks alive on bonfires, up until the 1920s in towns that are nearby here. And Frank Hamer was involved in all of it, and in protecting blacks and showing up at a jailhouse when mobs of thousands of people with rifles and shotguns were trying to break in and get a get a black guy to lynch him, and he'd show up in his car, calmly get out with a Thompson submachine gun, sit on the jail steps, and stare everybody down until they all dispersed. I mean, he was the real deal.
Yeah.
Anyway, it just got me thinking about how wrong I have been in expecting justice in this age. And not taking into account anywhere nearly as I should have the doctrine of total depravity.
Right.
And it helped me to realize that vindication comes at the consummation.
Right.
And not that I'm any less sad for you and your situation.
Yeah.
But I had put too much stock in America.
Right.
And this book really helped me to understand that our justice system is, while it might be the best in the world, is utterly flawed.
I've been trying to remember. One of the founders made the comment that no system of rules is better than the men who run it. And that was one of the things that was talked about at the Constitutional Convention, and that's really what we're seeing. The system is good.
Yeah.
The people in the system are not, and that corrupts everything. And it doesn't matter what system you have when there's no personal ethics.
Right.
Yeah, that's very much the situation. Very much.
So anyway, it's unusual how reading something so completely apart from theology
I know.
gave me a slap upside the head.
That's funny. Well, along those lines, I'll tell you an interesting thing. I've been deeply concerned since I got in here about where my father is with his mental state. Interestingly enough, my mother instantly became calm. It's like, the years of uncertainty all kind of were resolved, and she is upset, obviously, but also calm. And that has helped my dad a lot. I think his unease has fed off of her unease to a large degree. But, I keep talking with Judy, and Judy assures me that he understands. It's been explained to him. He hasn't lost track of what my current situation is, which was my big concern. So I was having a conversation with my parents recently, and at the end of the conversation, Dad said, "Well, I can't wait to see you again." And he says things now that are off, and you just don't know, and I didn't push back. We need to not push back if he says things that are off, and but it had me a little bit concerned. Did he say that by habit? What is he talking about? Because it certainly doesn't look humanly possible that I will see him again.
Right.
And so I was concerned about that. I asked Karen about it. The gist of it all, as I talked to Karen and Karen talked with Judy, and then Karen talked back with me again, and as I've reflected on it, of where my father is, he has spent the last several years a couple hours a day praying that I will be vindicated, and is utterly confident that it's going to happen. And Karen put it as, he doesn't know how or when or where, but is confident that it will happen. And my thought, going further than that, is my father, for all the things he's confused about, he knows he's near death. There can't be any question about that, right? And I kind of suspect that he has reached a point, being at the very end of life, where he sees what you were just talking about more clearly, and that the difference between being vindicated now in this life and being vindicated in eternity is just not as significant to him as it maybe used to be. And I think he's at that point where, this verdict has just floored a lot of people. It really doesn't seem to have fazed my father all that much. He's upset about it. He's upset. he's still saying the same things which he did before, very similar to what you're saying. The system is broken. Okay, but it hasn't sent him into any kind of a tailspin. He's pretty much where he was a month ago.
Now, what makes you think, other than just his age, that he's near death?
Well, I mean, his age, his precipitous decline, mainly mentally, but also in some other areas in the last couple of years. And, my father was not expected to live past 50, and he's now 81. We've had multiple moments where this has come up. One of the most interesting, when I was going through, when I was going through my cancer, I was sitting with the oncologist, and she's going over family history, and her eyes were kind of popping wide looking at my dad's history and all the various health issues that she's had. And she asked the question, how old was your father when he passed away? I said, excuse me? And she suddenly jumped and looked at the page again and said, oh, I'm sorry, I did that. It's kind of fumbling, but she read his medical history and assumed, well, this man must have died years ago. He's been through so much that he's 81, but he's much older than that. And so, I don't mean he's about to die in the next week. I just mean it's already stunning that he has lived this long. It really is.
Wow.
And I think that he knows that, and he feels it, and I believe he assumes that he's not long for
that. Yeah, I feel so bad about things like that because, it seems to me that, good grief, what's going to happen when your dad passes with these guys at Carlisle? It seems to me like they've just absolutely burned their bridges.
Well, they have, and frankly, the one good thing in this situation with Carlisle is the family was already having discussions. How do we keep them away when Dad dies? That was already a discussion. We were in between. Do we try to keep it a secret from them and have a quick funeral? Do we give just enough time for family to get into town and have a service somewhere and it's over and they're cut out? Or do we call and inform them and say, stay away and don't send any representatives? That was already before these events of the last couple of weeks. And I think now it's very simple. It's very obvious. And that's, again, we now absolutely can send a message and say, stay away. You're not wanted. You'll be asked to leave if you show up.
Yeah, you got to give us, friends, enough time to know what's going to happen. The family does anyway.
Yeah.
For guys like Don and me and,
Yeah, it's a small group. That's easy.
Right.
It's easily done. I'm not saying it's imminent, Dave. I'm not saying it's going to happen any day. I think his awareness of being near the end is pretty strong because he knows he's suffered a lot in the last couple of years. He's suffered a lot of loss. So
I've had a wonderful conversation a week or so ago with your mom, who called me, and she phoned me, and it was your father was out with others.
You have 1 minute left.
Yeah.
Anyway,
listen, we've got 1 minute left. I did want to tell you real quick before we're done. I'm doing better than you might think.
Well, you sound better.
I've picked up all the work that needs to be done back in here. I'm right back at it. I'm focused on how to be a good father regardless of where I am. I feel optimistic. I really do. Not about the case, but just about life. So I wanted to have that said and not have you thinking I'm, languishing in here.
I've certainly been languishing over your case, and this really helps me, and I want you to know that.
Good. Well, Dave, again, thank you for everything, and I will continue to be in touch.
All right. Thanks a lot, Tom.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
The caller has hung up.